Hi, I'm Nick Gillespie. I'm with my colleague Matt Welch. We're the co-authors of the Declaration of Independence, How Libertarian Politics Can Fix What's Wrong with America. We're doing Ask a Libertarian today, where we're taking all kinds of questions from Twitter, Facebook, Reason.com, you name it. We're doing our lightning round number 2.
From the letters, Jesse Walker, who's the managing editor of Reason magazine, asks, in the opening bath of faces, by which he means the little thing that begins each one of these videos where you see all the old dudes, who's the fellow next to Mises with a prominent chin?
That'd be Joseph Schumpeter, however you want to call it. He coined the term creative destruction, and his great classic Capitalism, Socialism, and Democracy is well worth reading.
He also plays a prominent role, probably the most prominent role of any economist in our book.
Yep, I would say so. It's a great book. Matt, Jonathan Cantin from Letters asks, Anarchy or Minarchy?
I think the obvious answer to that is Anarchy in the UK. And so on. Jonathan Cantin also asks, Nick, Austrian school or Chicago school?
I was going to say School of Hard Knocks, but if it came down to making a choice, I'd go with the Austrian school, just because I like their emphasis on the limits of knowledge rather than certitude.
I'm partial to old school myself. So, next question. Why don't you ask that to...
In all seriousness, says Sudden from the comments of Reason.com, in all seriousness, what ought to be the first concrete policy priority of a libertarian-leaning administration, were that even possible, given the present political circumstances and considerable restraints?
Obviously, the president in our debased current system of executive power gone mad has the most control over foreign policy compared to other domains in life and also law enforcement. So I would answer a two-headed way, basically start getting some of the bases closed overseas, some of the troops back home, so that we're no longer defending North or South Korea from North Korea, and also stop prosecuting the drug war. There's a lot of discretionary ability for a president to no longer order the arrests willy-nilly of Americans.
It would also be great to have a president who actually insisted on passing a budget while he's president rather than a stimulus program.
Oh, that's just crazy libertarian utopian talk.
It certainly is. Troy Coombs from via Facebook asks, is an act of eminent domain ever justified by a government at any level?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's in the Constitution as long as it's for an actual public use and the owner is compensated properly.
With correct takings estimated. The problem is, we can talk about these, how can we take libertarianism to its final nth degree. That's interesting to talk about, and it sketches out your philosophical constraints. But here in the real world, eminent domain is used constantly in completely frivolous ways to build a taxpayer-funded stadium in Washington, D.C., which is not the most flush of local governments, so that they can, so people who like baseball can go see baseball games. It's ridiculous. In Kelo versus New London, we had people having their houses eminent domain so that they can have a new industrial development. That is the typical way that eminent domain is used at this point, and there are way too many agencies at the federal, local, state level who have eminent domain power and in ways that are completely unaccountable.
All right, let's get back to let's put the lightning back in the lightning round.
Sure,
Sailor asks, why should anyone vote?
You would tell me why should anyone vote. Do you vote?
Yeah, I do vote. I vote particularly in local elections. I pay taxes and have a house in Oxford, Ohio, where votes on bond issues can come down to a couple hundred votes. I like to vote on that. I've never voted for a winning candidate for an office at any level.
That's pretty good. I think I voted for one winning candidate, and I'm not going to mention who it is because I'm still embarrassed by it, but certainly not at the presidential level. I say vote because it makes you feel good. If that's what you want to do, and don't vote if that makes you feel good, and if you think you can influence things in one way or the other. I vote constantly. I think it's fun. Next question. Who, this would be Jeremy Sands on Facebook, who will assume Ron Paul's place in the future?
Well, I think Ron Paul's position or place will continue to live on like Spock in the third Star Trek movie, as long as we remember him. Ron Paul isn't going anywhere soon. He's got a son, and he's got a lot of accolades. He's done more than any single person, I think, to create the next generation and the next 3 generations of libertarians.
To follow up on that, Students for Liberty, which is a huge grassroots student organization on campuses, are creating a new generation of people. They might not have Ron Paul's basket of concerns precisely. It's a different generation. They are the next Ron Paul, and it's one of the more interesting things to look at in modern politics. That's it for the lightning round version of Ask a Libertarian. We'll be right back with more substantive questions.